Hi, everyone, and welcome into our Osaka internship webinar series. My name is Tyler DeVici. I'm one of the admissions advisors for the North American region, and I'm very excited to speak to you here today about our Osaka internship opportunities. We've created this webinar to highlight some of the cultural opportunities, the business opportunities with our internship specifically, and just kind of highlight some of the great things that a student going on our Osaka internship can experience for themselves, and why somebody may consider Osaka for their summer, winter, or fall or spring internship. So we're going to kind of go through some things with that. I've actually had the chance to join our Osaka program on the ground. Last summer, I had the chance to be there for a couple weeks, spending time with our program team and our general manager, and also, of course, spending time with our students. So I have learned a little bit about the different placement opportunities. We're going to highlight some of those top career fields, some of the great events and things that we put on to support our students. And like I said, just very, very excited to be here and speak to you about that today. So the first topic that I do want to cover through my presentation is the opportunities related to essentially the program overall, but why specifically you should intern abroad. So the CRCC Asia program, being that it focuses on the internship, is a lot different than, say, a traditional study abroad program. Each one does tend to have its benefits and potential drawbacks, but as far as an internship abroad, there are four main points that I always like to highlight to students. Of course, there are more than just these four in terms of benefits to this type of program, but these are the four that I continually tell students about and highlight as far as them in deciding whether or not they would like to take part in a CRCC Asia program. The first topic that I think is very important to consider is how an internship abroad will allow you to gain a new perspective. So a lot of people, maybe you've done an internship before, maybe you have several internship experiences in your field. Well, an internship in a country like, say, Japan, for example, would be completely different. The way that they do engineering there versus, say, in your home country, even though it's the same field, it would likely be very different. Getting to see a new perspective of work experience in a new company, in a new culture, and just getting to kind of take on a completely different lens of life would be very unique. And it is one thing that does tend to drive a lot of career building, a lot of personal growth, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And one that, like I said, I definitely think is a very important consideration on how this program would be very beneficial to you. The next point that I think is very important to highlight is the topic of networking. If you've ever done any type of seminar or career prep, class, you'll hear networking a million times. This is a very important term. It is essentially, doing an internship abroad. You're working in a new company, working with colleagues and professionals in your field that you may be looking to pursue your career in. So that is always great to meet professionals, in similar industries. But on top of that, if you perform well in an internship, chances are these are people who could be giving you recommendation letters. They could be personally recommending you for certain jobs, or maybe giving you a job at the end of your internship and asking you to stay in Japan and work with them full time. So having a strong network of professionals and colleagues is always incredibly important. And to expand that network across international boundaries is an even larger benefit that not a lot of people have the chance to do. Another that kind of pulls into the next point, which is essentially the tangible experience, the building your resume, building that CV, having an international work experience or project-based work experience in, say, Japan is an incredibly thought-provoking thing to have on your CV or your resume. It's not something that every single applicant for a job is going to have. And if you're someone who is close to graduating, or maybe you're already graduated, maybe you're right in the middle of looking for a job, it is so important to consider how can you differentiate yourself from other applicants? How can you make yourself stand out? And a great way to do that is to have something as unique as an international work experience in a country like, say, Japan, which is incredibly innovative, such a large economy, and can just help to further enhance your existing resume and CV and make it that much stronger. The last point, again, these are just kind of the four that I tend to focus on, is the personal growth and independence. I actually think that this is one that not a lot of people think about. when you're doing something like interning abroad, you are not just working in a company. You are stepping out of your comfort zone. You are challenging yourself with a language barrier, with a cultural barrier. It's a completely unfamiliar environment. Maybe this is your first time away from home or out of your home state, for example, or home country. There are so many things that you can look back on with great pride after you do complete a internship in another country. I remember when I did my term abroad, I looked back on it with such fondness, how much I grew. My view of the world completely changed. I learned about a completely different way of life than the one that I was used to. And I always think that as far as not only humility is concerned, but just building a better professional and personal profile, I do think that that is a very important topic to think about, and one that I think is, again, stands at the center of our CRCC Asia programs. So now to specifically focus on Osaka. Again, this is a location that I've had the pleasure of visiting myself. There are a lot of excellent draws to Osaka. Osaka is one of our 2 locations in Japan in addition to Tokyo. And Osaka does have quite a unique culture that I'm excited to kind of talk to you about in the next few slides. So for those who don't know too much about Japan, Osaka is centered more in the center of Japan. So Tokyo tends to be kind of northeast of the main island, where Osaka is definitely pretty much right dead center. It's located next to Kyoto. You probably have heard of Kyoto. It's essentially the ancient capital of Japan, which is, again, a very great location for ancient sites and temples and gardens, which we'll talk about more in a moment. It is a city that was historically known as the kitchen of Japan. It's actually still, a lot of people still do refer to it as that today. There's a huge diversity of food. With being a port city, there were all these traders bringing in different foods from all over. So Osaka is definitely known for some of the best food in the whole country of Japan. It's kind of like a rumor that people from Osaka tend to be the most outgoing. Tokyo tends to be a little bit more serious, whereas the Osaka people do know how to kick back, enjoy themselves, enjoy some of that wonderful food and culture. And another really important point about Osaka is that it is by no means a small city. What is known as the Keihanshin metro area, which is essentially the Osaka metropolitan area, is still home to about 20 million people, which is absolutely enormous. That is still an enormous metropolis, lots of people to meet, and really offers a great, landscape for internship opportunities and like-minded young professionals. And we do have a listing of 18 career fields in total. There are a few that tend to be very strong in Osaka. Pretty much anything related to technology, so engineering, green technology, healthcare and pharmaceutical tech, things like that, tend to be incredibly strong in Osaka. It is also a pretty big destination for things like tourism. And I always like to highlight a couple attractions in Osaka because a lot of people might not know too much about it. So this map here on the left, you can see Osaka is right about here. So much more kind of central on this main island of Honshu, whereas Tokyo is right here. They are not too far away. It's about a 2-hour train ride that would connect the 2 of them. So you can go spend a weekend up in Tokyo. This area right here, Osaka, Kyoto, is home to some incredible attractions. Osaka itself is home to Universal Studios Japan. This is the single Universal Studios park in the entire country. It's actually only the second in all of Asia as well. It was the first Universal park opened outside the US. It's home to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, all those large attractions. Osaka Castle is arguably the most prominent landmark in the entire prefecture of Osaka. It's essentially the big castle that was on the front slide of this presentation. Dotonbori is kind of that downtown shopping food district where you would get all the great ramen, all the great takoyaki, shabu shabu meat. Everything would be pretty much in Dotonbori. Shitanoji is the temple. It's actually the oldest temple in the entire country of Japan, completed around 593 AD, they believe. An incredible sight to see. And Kyoto and Nara are the 2 bordering prefectures of Osaka. If there's not enough to see in Osaka, there is plenty to see in Kyoto. Go see the Arashiyama Bamboo Grove, the Nara Deer Park, endless weekend trips and evening trips, with only Kyoto and Nara being 40-minute train ride, if that, from Osaka. This is a slide that I always like to quickly bring up when it comes to Japan. Essentially what this graph shows is the demographic forecast from about 1920 all the way to the projection of about 2100 in Japan. What you can focus on in this graph is this kind of mid-pink region. This is essentially showing that right now in about 2020, Japan's population currently sits about 126 million. Right now, their birth rate is at an all-time low, meaning that their population is set to undergo a pretty steep decline over the next, say 80 years. What this means is that this mid-pink area essentially would represent the 15 to 64-year-olds, which we could kind of think of as the working age population. If you are somebody who sees yourself wanting to eventually work in Japan or maybe stay there for a few years and get some career experience, there has literally never been a better time to do an internship and get your foot in the door in Japan. The government in Japan right now is hard at work implementing various new levels of visas, because they know that they need to bring skilled laborers, they need to bring professors, they need to bring researchers and professionals into the country, because right now they are going to have a huge population decrease. And so, like I said, now is a better time than ever to try and get your foot in the door there. So more so on Japan specifically, talking more about the internship kind of component, Japan is a country that is truly at the forefront of innovation. As we said before, they are currently the third largest economy in the world, behind both the US and China. They are innovating in things like technology, automotive, AI. So working in a company in, say, Osaka, you could be working at the next unicorn, the next huge company that takes off in Japan. And so any young professional looking to gain dynamic, exciting work experience, you would find a lot of great success in Osaka and understanding that innovation. Another cool point about our programs is that we do host opportunities in all size companies. So overwhelming majority of companies in Japan, about 99.7%, are categorized as kind of small to medium enterprises. There are still a handful of Fortune 500 and much larger companies, but again, most of the time it would be in kind of a smaller to medium-sized company. We can seek out work experience for you in any size. If you want to try a startup, if you want to try a large company, we can always take that into consideration when we undergo your placement process, as it is great that Osaka has such a variety of companies to offer. We already talked about this, and if you're hearing Osaka in conversation, you'll hear it a million times, the food. Osaka is host to millions upon millions of different types of food in Japan. Anything that you'd ever want to try that you've ever seen in anime or on TV. Ramen, okonomiyaki, which is like the Japanese pancakes. Takoyaki is the fried octopus balls. Yakiniku is kind of the meat on the skewer. Ramen is, everyone's heard of ramen. Sushi, this photo in the background is what's called shabu shabu. So it's essentially hot pots of broth, meat broth, vegetable broth, pork broth, and the waiters and waitresses will bring you out large portions of vegetables, meats, seafood, and you essentially cook them in the hot broth, and it's usually all you can eat. And it is an absolutely incredible experience. Anybody who likes Japanese food is a foodie. Osaka should be at the absolute top of your list. And we talked about this as well, ancient history in Osaka. There is so much to see. Being next to Kyoto and Nara, some of the oldest gardens, shrines, temples, historical sites in the entire country are in this region, arguably more so than the Tokyo region. This photo is a shrine in the prefecture of Kyoto. It is called the Fushimi Inari Shrine. There are estimated 8,000 of these orange torii gates that create a pilgrimage path up a mountain. It is considered a very spiritual experience for tourists and Japanese people alike to undergo. And I myself have taken the pilgrimage, and many of the interns that we had last summer in Osaka did it themselves. And it's an incredibly spiritual experience to see some of that incredible Japan ancient history right in your backyard in Osaka. And this is another thing that we try to focus on with our program events that we put on, as CRCC Asia does host quite a few events ourselves. we like to try and highlight 3 different categories. The first being culture, the second being business, and the third being volunteering. Typically 1 event per week. We do try to have a cycle of the events so that we do go through, at least 1 every single month in each category. And basically this photo in the background was one of our groups in Osaka. They did the traditional Japanese tea ceremony. So both men and women dress in the traditional kimono garb, and you basically learn how the tea is served. It is an incredibly delicate and traditional experience. The tea has to be served with many different types, one specific hand, it has to be served to you. A lot of really cool, unique cultural intricacies that our students were learning about, through a professional tea ceremony group. And this is just one example of the many opportunities. We've done indigo dyeing, we've done, a festival drum lesson, all these great things we've tried, sushi making. So you can definitely look forward to some really cool opportunities through our CRCC Asia sponsored events, which are included in your program fee. This is another topic of the events. This would be the volunteering field. So our group in Osaka went to the local YMCA, which is a very big group in a lot of countries. They support youth education, development, summer camps. Our group helped to organize a clothing sale where donors could give their old clothing, their gently used clothing that was then sold as a consignment, and the funds were donated to the after school and summer activities for the members of the YMCA. And we had quite a great turnout there of students who were eager to, give back to the community that they were living in for a couple months and really experience volunteerism in a completely different culture. So that is kind of specifically Osaka. I could really talk forever about the various draws to it. I think it's a wonderful location. It does not get enough love, in my opinion, because it does tend to be overshadowed by a city such as Tokyo. But Osaka does have its own incredibly unique culture. And now I want to dive specifically into more details about our CRCC Asia program. So as I mentioned, our agency does kind of operate around 18 different career fields, everything from business and finance and nonprofits and healthcare. These tend to be the 3 in Osaka that are particularly strong. I usually say that anybody interested in anything technology, Osaka should kind of be one of your first choices. We have some incredible engineering companies working with robotics and AI and machine learning. Green technology tends to be like the environmental engineering field, renewable energy, resources, sustainability. IT and computer science, also a really strong field there, coding, programming, hardware. And again, we can pretty much look into anything. If you're looking for a great business opportunity, a great nonprofit, we always encourage you to apply for Osaka. And during that call with the advisor, we will be able to tell you, more pragmatically what is your opportunity outlook going to be for your 3 career fields. This is just a quick rundown of the things that are included in our program. So of course, guaranteed internship placement. We have you select your top 3 career fields. We guarantee a placement in one of the 3. Depending on your citizenship, we typically do provide the visa processing and support. We do provide fully furnished accommodation. All of our students live together in our CRCC Asia sponsored housing. Airport pickup, we do come get everybody at the airport when you arrive, bring you back to the accommodation. We have a great induction course the day after that, welcoming everybody to Osaka. We have a wonderful banquet dinner. I've already mentioned the different cultural volunteering and business events. With our Osaka team on the ground, they do a lot more than just plan events and welcome you to the country. They basically serve as 24/7 on-site support. We have typically weekly meetings between our program managers and our interns. We want to check in on you. We want to be there if we are needed, but we also want to give you freedom to enjoy yourself, travel on the weekends, go check out more of Japan, take a quick flight to South Korea, just, get out and enjoy the culture while you are there for a few months. And these are some of the additional inclusions as well. So I do hope that with all that said, that does give you a much better glimpse at Osaka. Again, it is a wonderful internship location. This will be our 2nd year hosting the internships in Osaka. It does look like we may have a question. We have a question that says, I'm considering an internship in Japan, but cannot decide between Tokyo and Osaka. Which should I pick? This is a wonderful question. I usually do tell the students to consider, why are you wanting to go to Japan? Is it more so you want to experience the culture? Is it more so you're very set on a specific career field? As I said before, there do tend to be career fields that are stronger in Tokyo and stronger in Osaka. There is quite a bit of overlap, but for example, if you were to talk to an admissions advisor with CRCC Asia and said, I'm really, really looking to try to do an internship in technology, we might say, you're better off in Osaka. Tokyo does have a little bit more availability in terms of start date. That is something to consider as well. It is a little bit more expensive. So I would just kind of read a little bit more about both of them. Another very important thing is obviously you can only end up deciding one location. So to be completely honest with you, whichever one you decide, you literally cannot go wrong. And also, as I mentioned before, they are only a 2-hour train ride from one another. So whichever one you end up deciding, you absolutely 100% should plan a weekend trip to go stay in the other location and spend some time there as well. I'm really excited about the Olympics this summer. Will I still see some of the action this summer if in Osaka? Great question. The answer is yes. So there will be a lot of hype throughout the entire country of Japan. Some of the events are actually not taking place in Tokyo, but in other prefectures in Japan. There will be a lot of advertisements going around in Osaka. There's probably some watch parties planned in some outdoor venues, for example. Tokyo will, of course, be the absolute center of it. Even if you don't have tickets to any of the events, you will see a lot of commotion going on, a lot of people out and about, traveling throughout the trains. Definitely expect some backups as far as the transportation is concerned. But as I said before, the Olympic pride and the hype will be spread throughout the entire country. I would not be surprised if you're up in the northern island of Hokkaido on a ski slope and people are wearing their Olympic gear. It's going to be something like I think we've never seen before at all. So I can't wait to be watching it even all the way back here from the US. It's going to be quite an event, and anybody going out to Japan, you are very lucky to be there at that time. I'm very jealous. So if there's not any more questions, everyone, thank you so very much for joining me. I appreciate those who did submit questions. I hope that this information was informative and at the very least entertaining. We will be saving this on our YouTube page, so if you do want to check it out, we should be able to send out the link at some point so that you can review the information. Always check out our website. I'm going to quickly move this out of the way because if you do ever have general questions, you can always send them to our internships at crccasia.com email. This essentially is received by everybody in our organization. And so the proper team, depending on where you are currently, if you're in the US, if you're in Asia, the proper team will receive your inquiry. They will be able to address your question. And of course, if you are looking to join our program, I recommend you check out our website, submit us an application, and definitely we hope to receive many of those. And again, thank you everyone for joining me. I wish you all a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thank you so much again. I'm going to hope to end this and take care.